Welcome back to more question and answers.
What would be the difference then of dreaming and projecting, or are they the same?
I wouldn't say they are not necessarily the same, depending on what you mean with projecting. I presume right now that you mean with projecting, let's say you project yourself out of body, going with your ethereal body and you're traveling somewhere,
Yes.
some remote viewing, and so that is projecting. That is not dreaming. Dreaming can be many different things. We sometimes call it dreaming when we have a visitation from a crossed over loved one. Then all of a sudden, there is a presence there, and we see, let's say, grandfather, grandmother, mother, brother, whoever, and we have a conversation. That is, to me, a visitation. That is not really a dream.
Right.
But then we can also, in so-called dreams, go with our awareness, just take our awareness focus. Anastasia of the Ringing Cedars of Russia talks about this awareness beam or stream. Tesla says, everything is light and vibration. So she's working with this light and vibration thing. So when you put your focus on something in a directive, you might end up, let's say you have a question about something, and you take that into your night world. Okay. So because of you have an intention of a question, you might be guided into a time and space. You might even conjoin another soul having a discussion about it. And you're conjoining their body like in the past life thing. And it's like, wow, there's my answer. And it can be in color, and it might be seemingly a dream. You wake up and say, that was an interesting dream, but it was not really a dream because, psychologists say, yes, there's a dream world, but mostly they're agreeing more that it's kind of like a getting rid of data and cleansing out and processing something. Okay. In a sense, one can say, yes, that's it, but I don't think they've ever figured out chemistry yet. Yes, there is biochemistry involved. Yeah, so people who don't have a certain biochemistry, they have a hard time staying asleep or being asleep and so on. So there is a biochemical process in the brain which allows us to do things. But certain things are not explainable there. That's why so many sleep studies are done, but there are not done enough sleep studies yet to explain or triggering, let's say, out-of-body experience. You triggering that part of the brain and boom, you're going out of body, or you have a high experience. They're working on it. And okay. Actually, one thing, remember I did the newsletter and I had this brain tap link. And they're having very good hypnosis on certain self-healing techniques and awareness techniques and so on. And when somebody does that, you could trigger a vibration or biochemistry in the glands of the brain so that you get flung out of the body. That is also possible. That's what hallucinogenics do. But hallucinogenics have crutches which operate only in a certain parameter. But when you can create the circumstances that you can see yourself going out consciously and not just flung out of the body by a trigger, any kind of trigger, whether it's a biochemical trigger or another trigger, then you own the process, then you own this. Robert Monroe, who founded the Monroe Institute. Yeah, he figured that trigger out by relaxing. So being relaxed is one of the major triggers to go and do in space and time. But the body has to relax that the mind can operate, or better said, not the mind, but spirit can operate, because okay. The mind in its own body is more the logic receptors. However, do you remember the newsletter where I did the talk about Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor about the 4 brain parts? the left
Yes.
brain parts and the right brain parts, and how
Yes.
her brain shut down. And then the last one was the brain part where she felt one with everything.
Yes.
That's what we can also train ourselves to go, even in the 3D world, to go from the left brain analytical thinker all the way to the right brain universal mind and awareness. Thinker is the wrong word. Beingness, connect with that beingness of us who has this awareness link, I would call it. Whether it's a biochemical link or a neurotransmitter link or a glandular link, whatever you want to see it. But I can only say through history and time, there's always talk about the third eye center and, the eye of Horus and all this sort of thing. And every culture has a little bit of that going for it. Now, and again, there is a scientific viewpoint with Dr. Jill Border Taylor having that experience of bliss and total oneness when she just operated on that part, and knowing that the human condition has something to do with also brain development. Our brain didn't start out the way we have it now. We had, the reptilian brain and then the limbic brain and, and so on. So there was a development and evolution. So we'll see where, when we are utilizing both parts of the brain in sync, that's another thing. That's why he created HemiSync, and now it's taken over by another institution. But Robert Monroe created this HemiSync scenario where you have tones in both of your ears and you're triggering this brain vibration going on both brain parts on the same side. By the way, you can do that also when you're singing certain vowels like and you close your eyes, and then and you do it this way and this way. That's actually a technique which is also used to make kids more intelligent after trauma, to heal brain injuries.
Wow.
Dr. Pillai calls this phonemic intelligence. But that sounding method has been around for eons and ages. And even the Kabbalists did that sounding method. So I did it even before Dr. Pillai got famous with it, and doing the sounding. And I find it or my son did it too, when you put your hands over your ears, and it goes straight into your ear. So it goes straight into the midbrain. And it opens up the brain. And when my son did it with me, he said, wow, it's almost like other people are singing with us. It has this echo effect almost. And that also can bring you into the sensation of time and space is endless around me. Yeah. And then when you hold it here, it goes through your palm and chakras, and it just goes through, and you can widen your awareness that way too.
Claudia. Okay. Well, so the theory what do you think of the theory that Dolores Cannon has, that when you sleep, she says your body needs rest, your soul doesn't, and your soul just takes off and meets up with whoever and wherever. And so I kind of thought that was dreaming. That was not dream. That was what I think is, when I think I'm dreaming, that's actually what I'm doing. I'm actually, my soul is somewhere else with this, in this place that I only know in my dreams, with people I only really know in my dreams.
One could say that, only, again, I see it a little bit more complicated. You have to understand Dolores Cannon is a pioneer of hypnotherapy in a sense, and then asking conscious questions. Other hypnotherapists did the same thing, but they didn't become so famous because they're, for example, took on the subject of incarnation and UFOs, because one of the therapists, similar to Dolores Cannon, was asking her clients as a psychologist, okay, now what you're telling me is a little strange. Is that a UFO, and so on. And how many times have you been there? And one guy was saying, 4,500, so many times. And she's like, whoa. So she then started to talk about in when people were in trance about these kind of things and these kind of incarnations. And she published a book way early. I don't know the author anymore, unfortunately, because it's so old, it's out of print. And I only borrowed it one time and I flipped it through because I was not allowed to keep it too long because it was such a rare treasure. But Dolores Cannon, coming back to that, she got the information by the deep trance of these souls she then talked to, and that's their interpretation. Now, remember, all this information comes depending on the level of soul awareness, the person who is questioned, and also their wording understanding, their ultimate filter. So what Dolores Cannon talks as soul is just, first of all, only a soul spark animating one body. And if the soul spark totally would leave, we would die. So it cannot be the soul spark. So what else is it? It is soul awareness. That light, flashlight, we can send in time and space and directions. And that's what Anastasia of the Ringing Cedars of Russia, in the book which Vladimir Megre wrote, describes as, the light beam. So she can go into, and she taught it to him, she can go with her light beam to planets, to this, to that, consciously, and checking it out like remote viewing, what's going on there. And we are in our mindset oftentimes way too controlling or too left brain analytical, that we don't allow ourselves to go there because of whatever fear we might not come back, or we make it up, or whatever parameter we set ourselves.
Okay, so we can basically also have unconscious fear.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, if I go too far, I might die. I might lose the connection to my body, thinking that we are taking our consciousness, completely with us. And yes, there is a risk. I went regularly, my guiding ones trained me to get out of my body and to visit like you're doing at night. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, I was not allowed to do this anymore because of a risk of certain things could take over my body. And they didn't want to do it. And so even though they trained me to go certain places and to also visit certain healing places in time and space, which are now used for certain healing meditations, and they showed me that they were real by, for example, they showed me a place, healing pyramid. And then later I found a book and there was the description. I opened it up and there was the description of somebody flying in their nighttime, dream time, into a healing pyramid. It's like, whoa, two people having the exact same experience to the T. What is a coincidence? So I got my confirmation that way when I started to become doubting Thomas in my 3D form, slowly dimming down and forgetting what I really knew. So they kept me awake, so to speak, for the most part. I still had more dimmed down time than others throughout my life, but still. So what you're talking about is, yes, you're taking your spirit body and go visit, or you're taking your soul focus and go visit. And
so I am really doing this.
Yes, you are really doing this.
I am really doing this. Okay.
Yes, our psychologists probably, or psychoanalysts would probably argue with that. That's only biochemical. That's why I talked a little bit about the biochemical components about all this, and also about Dr. Gilberto Taylor about the brain configurations there. But ultimately, yes, you are doing this in your visit. Let me say this. Some of my clients called me up sometimes in the morning, said, hey, you visited me at night. I had a question and you responded, and I dreamt about us discussing things. And then I remember, oh yeah, we discussed about that. So I visited them at night and they dreamt about me discussing it with them, their problem they're having. There's not a single encounter. That happened many, 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 many times, where people were saying, well, I dream about you regularly. I just have to ask you to answer my question. And here you are appearing and we discussing. So it's like, that's why I'm so exhausted.
You're meeting up with people.
Yes, but I do travel also for my own information. For
Yeah.
example, I have questions about safety on the planet, or is this house safe where I'm living, or is this safe here? And is it, human vulnerable body? We all want safety. So I have been shown visions where I conjoined other people's body in time and space, which were not my body. So it was not my incarnation. But to answer a question, I was then conjoining into somebody else's time and space reality to look out of their eye and really seeing a potential reality emerging. Yeah, tidal waves or war-like scenarios or whatever I had a question about. And it was so real. My mind could not have made up all these details and facts which I didn't even have knowledge about.
Right.
Yeah. So I then asked certain confirmational questions to experts about, I saw this, how's that possible? I saw that, how's that possible? I saw this machine, how's that possible? And then they explained it to me how that could be possible. So we get our confirmation if we ask for confirmation too. But yes, you are not making up all these multidimensional realities. You are there, you are it, you're checking things out. Yes. And yes, one could say it is, the subject of the term, what is dreaming, is so wide when you really look in it. And yes, you can have symbolic dreams, and they're just for your information, where let's say there are 4 spirit houses. A white one is a vision giver, vision of the future. Brown one is about grounding something which is possible for you to have. I'm just saying as zip symbol work. And a black one called nightmare, coincidentally, can bring a warning about difficulties to come. And a red one could be warning about certain wars. So let's say if you know that if that's in your symbol vocabulary and you're working consciously with this kind of power animals, you could be warned of certain things, like the black horse appears and warns you and gives you some visions. Then you know, oh, this is a nightmare, could come in the future if I do not prevent A, B, C, D, E. Or this is coming, so I have to prepare myself. Or the vision is coming for something positive or something which guides me, and the white one, depending on what's needed. So there is something about dreams, and psychology talks about dream symbolism and dream interpretations and so on and so forth. So there is a component where our higher self and subconscious work together to get information to us. And that can also happen in the dream state.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot of information. So I really am awakening.
Yes.
This is an awakening.
Yes. And you are not alone. Right now, you can look it up. Scientists do not know why our Earth spins faster. They are baffled. Check it out. Why does the Earth spin faster now? There you will find
it's actually spinning faster?
Yes, it is actually spinning faster.
Maybe that's why I have vertigo. I never had vertigo in my whole entire life. Mm-hmm. And the last 2 weeks, I actually went to a doctor because I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And he says it's vertigo. And I'm just like, wow, like I get it when I'm sleeping. It wakes me up. So maybe that has something to do with it?
Yes, you're not the only one. I had it too. I'm over that phase now. Some others had it too. Some of them are over it. Some of them are still in it. Vertigo can have something about the Earth is wobbling, the Earth is tilting, and it's spinning faster. So we have to go into a new equilibrium. Of course, make sure that you're well grounded. All the grounding exercises, that should help. But also, we have very unusual weather. So how are your sinuses? Can you breathe easily? If not, it might be a plugged duct between your ear, which is responsible for the equilibrium, and your sinus cavities.
Yeah, no, I'm fine in my sinuses, but I now that you're making me think about this, I've kind of had like I guess what you would call like a headache, like kind of right here.
Okay.
And I never get headaches also.
Well, again, my doctor sent me to a ear and throat specialist. I'm going to check that one out to satisfy science. For women, it can also have something to do with thyroid issues, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I will check that out. If none of the above, no allergies, which can, create the equilibrium because we had so much rain and we had so much abnormal weather, it could trigger some allergies in you. So I'm just saying they're logic terms why something happens.
Right.
Before I go into the spiritual terms, because I have to address them. So it could be allergies, it could be, inner ear equilibrium. That's for sure the cause why you have this, problems. So
Right.
inner ear is also connected with the center of the brain,
Okay, that makes sense now.
So if it's not allergy, if it's not thyroid and hormonal issues, if it's not this, then it's the spinning. And everyone has that. And that's why so many people have awakening symptoms now. My guiding ones told me that people will awaken between the year of 20 to 30. And then we have to make ready for a big leap forward or destruction. So some people naming right now the Bible and the last, hoorah is coming and all that. But other people also talk about the potential that can be happening for us here. So I'm always looking for the bright side of things, not to talk it, I know there's a catharsis coming. And my guiding one said 20 is the first year of a 10-year cycle of full moon-like energy where everybody shook up about their emotional belief structures and pushed into her intuitive self. So the goal is by 2029 to be fully in your emotional power and also into integrity. And as integrity issue starts to become in 2028, where Saturn energy shakes people up to see what they're made out of authentically. They cannot hide for themselves anymore. Okay. So the end result is supposed to be that we are fully self-sufficient, self-reliant, self-created, no more blame, shame game. And with that, then we can shift into whatever that might be for the individual. But shift we will. There's a whole new cycle coming in with 2030 and shift, change, shift, change, shift, change. We have to be really flexible to make it. But till then, this is the preparation, like me and my intuition, me and my unadjusted emotions. 2022, we are right now in the mastership energy of that, mastering our intuition, mastering our emotions. And that's why unadjusted things come into the open. 23, next year will be about shifting to the next level, intuitively, emotionally. And then we start co-creating. And then we communicate what we learned, we met, teach it other people. And then it's no more about love life. Our heart chakra was all up in 2026. And in 27, we see more and more, or are forced to see the cause and event of things. And then 28, authenticity, 29, coming into our power, and then 30, leap off.
And what happens to the people who have not awakened? Because there's less
of misery.
There's a lot of people less of us. There's less of people who are awakening than there are of not. Because I know if I talk to people like about this, they look at me like I'm nuts. They do. They look at me like I'm crazy or something.
Well, that's why you do not throw pearls to the swine. In other words,
yes,
not just always share and overshare with people. But that's why also I'm only now allowed to bring certain information forward, not to be put into an asylum somewhere saying she is schizophrenic and having a manic episode, right?
Yes.
So by the way, just as a side note, I've never diagnosed that way, just for everyone to know. However, that's why it is cautiousness. There is in a way, everybody will be kind of sort of forced to awaken and kind of sort of be forced to take on responsibilities, even though the polarity of things will also try to keep people in the dark, try to keep people dependent, try to keep people not self-sufficient, try to keep people, you know, in a kind of codependency reality. But ultimately, we have the power to step out of it one way or another if we realize that we can be free. And one of the ways of freedom is, you know, meditation and also understanding of the bigger picture. And the understanding of the bigger picture, you can try to digest it logically, but ultimately confirmation comes to practice. Seeing is believing, my guiding ones always say, confirmation comes to practice. So let's say you get information in your supposed dream time, and then you ask, okay, I need validation on this information I just witnessed. I ask experts, you know, how is this possible? How is this possible? Or if there is no experts for that theme you witnessed or you're questioning about, then it will show itself to you. You will get confirmation. If you ask for confirmation that something is real, it will be shown to you. For me, my guides, it was always that I had a vision or I had an experience, and then I found it described in a book, or actually in the beginning of my career of seeing and stuff, there were no books about these things.
Right.
At least there were the assess material books. So they are describing a lot. You know, Jane Roberts' Trilogy of Oversoul 7, or Jane Roberts and the whole assess material. He is very analytical and very logic and really channel things for the left brain scientific mind. There's a lot of information there, how reality is created and all this, but it is not an easy digest to read, you know. It's, but you can find a lot of information there. Or for example, I had something about, you know, frequency of 333. Dr. Eric Pearl claims 333 is a certain healing frequency. So I was curious, let's say. My guiding one said, yeah, that's true. And you operated on it before, but I wanted to have my left brain satisfied. So I looked up in certain books, frequency, and found certain correlational things. Oftentimes, books, specific spiritual books, they copy from each other. There's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. And when you look back, so many books are written. They have been written quite a while back by somebody and not in print anymore because people get too old. And now some youngster comes, finds an old book, rewrites it, and oh, my newest, you know, information. Come here to nurture yourself. Everything already has been there. But at that time, you know, in the 70s, there was nothing really there except Jane Roberts. And maybe then Robert Monroe came into it. You know, these are, to me, two bigger galleon figures in part of the awakening process. Okay, any other?
Can this awakening that I'm experiencing have to do with my purpose?
Yes. Yes. Look, everyone who awakens becomes a conscious acupuncture point on the planet. And it functions like in an acupuncture needle on a body. It creates ripples, it creates energy reflections, or like a stone upon it creates ripples. So you, with your heightened awareness and your light gets brighter, and you want to do more good, you're, you know, a visionary of good, a visionary of whatever your purpose there is, you will make a difference. You will even make only an energy difference because you open yourself up to more light. And you know, when we're doing our Divine Light Healing Circle, we're bringing in a lot here and we bring it out into this reality. But then we also bring people or people's energy who need healing from here up there. So we're doing a whole lot of exchange work of energies, but we're bringing light here. And people have reported, I almost want to say, miraculous change in their energy body, so that we can take a lot of people off our list. So how is that possible? Yeah. And when we doing the meditation and we anchoring things in our body and we are spreading it out, I always are reminded of one of my teacher's predecessor in India. He meditated in the middle of a war zone, just sat there and meditated, and everything quieted down.
Wow.
In the polarity of things.
Yeah.
And he was, a normal person by the standards of the time, and he was forced to go to the Indian military. He had no choice.
Right.
He was no famous guru then. So, but he believed in the connection with the divine, and he obviously had the gate wide open. So he brought it down, and it creates a ripple effect which quieted down the whole battlefield. Same as I posted in our fast track to our psychic abilities place about the conjoined meditation. It creates a field. Yeah, a group in Chicago did it, and then another religious group in Utah did it, like conjoined prayer, and it quieted down the criminal rate in their respective cities.
Wow.
That's measurable. So when you're opening yourself up to the light and bringing it forth, you will create a ripple effect in your environment. Doesn't mean that everybody goes conform with where you're at. Yeah, because remember, high frequency can trigger people. That means a person who has a high frequency trigger other people to the truth, but they might not like the truth. So they might not like you. So you might come into the room and they might say, who is she? Yeah, so you have to deal with that too. But then you have to be in your light consciousness and say, ta-da, this is who I am. Take me or leave me, but this is who I am. Your choice. It's okay. I don't condemn you for not liking me. I don't condemn you for being who you are. I just let me be who I am. It's quite all right.
Right.
Yeah? But you also don't have to get on a mission. That was my scenario with the Christian church. I started to become a Protestant priest. And in the end, I couldn't do it because, or I didn't want to do it. I could have done it, but I didn't want to do it because of this mission. You have to convert people to your exact belief structure. And I couldn't do it because I cannot put people in a box, say, this is the box, this is the only box you can live in.
Right.
Yeah, when once you have seen outside the box, what else is there? It's hard to come back into a box. Yes, maybe you then at least allow yourself to be and play in a little bit bigger box. Yeah, so I couldn't go and operate in that box. I could have made myself operate in the box for the benefit of a few, but I decided against it and said no boxes.
Yeah.
And that was an argument I had with my husband. He said, no, boxes are necessary. And this particular box is the right box to be in. Well, I left him this opinion and we can agree to disagree. That's the only way sometimes, to agree
Right.
to disagree. Because again, who knows the ultimate truth? Our small brain cannot comprehend 100% the truth. Even though I have to say some of these authors, Conversations with God, it's one of them. It's nice that somebody actually complained to God and God responds back. Oh, what a surprise,
Right.
So, or The Little Soul and the Sun. These are some of my favorite books for understanding why are we even here. The Little Soul and the Sun wants to express God's forgiveness. So there it is, to explore part of God's source and the aspect, this tiny little aspect of forgiveness. You have somebody who needs to do something to you so that you can do the forgiveness process.
Right.
And there we are. And that's where we are in polarity. That's why we sometimes subscribe to a horror story. But when you're in the horror story, you say, what in the world? Why, God, did I go through this? And when I would say then sometimes to my client, you signed up for that, they can say, yeah, here you have a bird in your cage in the brain. Yeah, something is chirping too loud. In other words, I hold myself back, but I know that, yes, certain things were karmic. You had to come, and God said, Source said, dive down. This is your chores. This is what you have to do on my command. But then there's also free will. So there's always, in my perspective, a little bit of something.
So how can there be free will? I
Okay.
don't know. I don't understand it.
Okay, free will is, we don't have free will in major things, but we have free will in minor things. Yeah, like I had a certain purpose, designated purpose, going down, having certain things to do. But I chose to do it as a female. I chose to do it as a white Caucasian. I chose to do it as a German, with all the implications of the history of the Germans and what it did in my family, and the burdening which brought it down so that I could operate and liberate some of that burdening concept of the history. Yeah, so that was my free will. The staging of in which parameter I operated, that was free will choice.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Because
could have chosen to be a male.
yeah, because I mean, when we're here, what is supposed to happen will happen.
Yes, right. That's why I'm always saying to my clients, the divine in you leads you to the right things at the right time. You can relax. And it takes a lot of pressure. That doesn't mean one should stay back and laze out and say, oh, yeah, well, the divine will take care of me. Then I can only say the analogy of the guy on the roof. You know, water's rising high. First boat comes, hey, come here, I bring you to safety. Oh no, thank you, my God will save me. Second boat comes, hey, you know, come here, we will bring you to safety. Oh no, my God saves me. Third boat comes, also he sends him away. Now finally he drowns, sits on God's doorstep, and God says, you know, he complains, you didn't save me, you didn't save me. Well, God says, I sent you 3 boats, you didn't get in. So yeah, ultimately, sometimes we have certain expectations of being saved and we do not see what's really given. That's why the gratitude concept, to be grateful for what we have, will bring out the frequency of bringing in more things to be grateful for. And that's really something to consider.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why I liked you when you said, you know, I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for the other, and actually I'm good. And then you can relax. You have achieved much. You can relax, explore, and don't say, oh, now I have to find out my mission. I had one person who was really determined to find out her mission. It had to be her mission. And her mission, we did go there, and it was just to be. She was so disappointed. She thought she was meant to be a heroess or a hero of some sort, or write a famous book, or, and her mission came out. It just loud and clear, her higher self said, just be, just observe, just smell the flower, just eat your food, taste the food. Not every being in the cosmos has taste buds. Just enjoy your body, just be. And once the first disappointment was over, she realized what that really meant, and she lives, you know, lives really, really happy now. And that's what it is. We're always chasing after something and wanting more of this and having more of that and being more of that and being whatever. Intent of just be. We will be exact there. And then there's one other thing I find very important lately, where there is so much controversy going on and so much right and left and up and down thinking with people, and it's only this is right and this is wrong. And sometimes it can be fairly suppressing, you know, like there is pressure on.
Yeah.
So I asked my guys 2 things, or God source 2 things. One, if I'm meant to experience this, please show me the bigger picture, that I might understand and go along with what I'm experiencing without hesitation and without pushing back.
Right.
And the second thing is, if it's not meant to be on your order, then please take it away. This is really too disgusting. I don't want to deal with it. Take it away. Don't let me continue in this processing or in this loop, you know, when something doesn't want to change and you're repeating the same old stuff or just in the loop. And it works like a charm. So since then, I've been way more relaxed, way less fighting with the world, way less wanting to go and run after, and being just more in the moment, and everything flows then faster and finer, and with trust, and yes, also with faith and God's grace.
That is so, so true. I can honestly say that I have changed so much in the last 2 years, 2.5 years since I started this. Like, I am totally a different version of me. Better, much better. You know, I think the big thing that it all started when I just kind of sat here and said, why am I doing this job? You know, I think I'm making a difference. I'm not making a difference. I'm just putting money in somebody else's pocket. I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. And that's when it all started. And I'm so much happier. I'm so much aware. I know myself so well. Oh my gosh, I know myself like I've never known myself. Like I've never known myself. And you're right, you know, this is me. I'm being true to myself. Like me, fine. Don't like me, fine. You know, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference one way or the other.
And I see while you're even saying it, your aura expanded.
Did it?
You're sitting in the front in a uniform background there of color, and I see your aura expanding, and it was really beautiful to see this being okay with yourself.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So do you have any other question before we have to go?
Oh God, Claudia, I can keep you on the phone. I can keep you on this call like for hours and hours and hours. But actually, I actually had lots of stuff written down, but we covered a lot of it.
Well, why don't you just hop in if you have time on the Thursdays meetings?
Yes, I'm going
and ask
to.
you questions.